Welcome back, America. We're here with our good friend, General Jack Keane, retired four-star Army general, Fox News senior strategic analyst. Really, nobody better at this stuff. General Keane, let's talk about Venezuela for a moment. We have people trying to create a controversy around this when I think it's one of the greatest military operations in modern American history. In fact, it was so secret we still don't know everything that took place. We do know, I think, that none of our guys were injured or killed, and they got what they wanted to get, Maduro and his wife. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it's what everybody has seen. I mean, this is a brilliant operation, flawlessly executed and planned in an incredible amount of detail, so much so that we could protect the insertion force, which had to fly a long distance, breaking the coastline of Venezuela, into a military compound, a military base, and then into the compound itself where Maduro was, and in a matter of minutes, snatch the Maduros and bring them back out, and then another long helicopter ride out, and be able to do that without any response to them of any consequence except for the security force on the ground protecting the Maduros, and most of those had to be killed by the insertion force. To be able to achieve that end state as flawlessly as it is and travel those kind of distances is nothing short of remarkable. And the other thing, Mark, is the consequences of this. It is a limited military operation, to be sure. It wasn't intent to take down a regime. The intent was to capture two people, and we accomplished that. But the leverage and influence the United States has had as a result of this is really quite stunning. Well, first of all, we're working with the incumbent Maduro regime and bending them to our will. This is the vice president, who I understand is cooperating with the administration, and certainly her two thugs and killers, one the defense minister, the other the interior minister. These are the guys that own the guns and repress the people. And obviously at some point, we have to keep our eye on them, make sure they understand how vulnerable they are, that they don't turn on the vice president who's cooperating with us. But then even the implications in the region itself, the Colombian president, I know for a fact, has called the president as he announced, but he essentially capitulated. I mean, here he was just a week ago saying he's willing to take up arms and fight the United States, and now he's capitulating and bending to our will. He will likely be deposed in an election in May of this year. But nonetheless, quite an impact. I suspect we'll be able to make some progress with the president of Mexico, Sheinbaum, who's been resisting conducting operations against the cartels who have such a stranglehold onto fentanyl production and its distribution into the United States. And likely, he will have a different attitude in terms of working with this administration, joint intelligence, and possibly even joint operations to assist her in doing that. Cuba, clearly on their knees as a result of this. Oil's going to be cut off. We likely, Mark, will see the country probably collapse economically. Nothing we have to do. It'll just significantly happen. And guess what? The reason for a lot of this was the foreign intervention, as you acutely and astutely pointed out in terms of the Monroe Doctrine. The foreign intervention in Venezuela has been significant. China, Russia, Cuba, and Iran. And all of them are taking a knee, as a result of this. And when you look elsewhere in the world, the impact is significant. And it's certainly gaining us leverage in dealing with the Iranians, which we'll likely discuss. So the worldwide impact in terms of adversaries taking notice and being reminded of what a military power the United States is, but even more importantly, how President Trump uses limited military action to accomplish an objective so there will be peace and stability. After all, in Venezuela, this is all about the freedom for the 28 million people there and eventually moving towards democratically held elections so the people can put in power, who they want and get this country back on its feet again.
We'll be right back.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.